All right, well, next up on my podcast is someone I've known for about, 20 years? Sweeny Murti? I mean, I'm so glad to have you on my show.
Something like that. Boy, I can't believe how long it's been since I first saw you, and now look at all the great things you're doing.
And now we're doing a podcast together, and thanks for doing this today. Of course, Sweeny is, if you listen to pre- and post-game on WFAN, and pretty much everything Yankees on FAN, he is the guy. And first of all, what's that role been like for you as the pre- and post-game guy for Yankee baseball?
Yeah, listen, following the Yankees, covering the Yankees, 22 years. It's a fantastic experience, right? I started the job when Derek Jeter was not even the Yankees captain yet. And here we are. Aaron Judge has just been named the Yankees captain. Fortunate enough to see his whole career so far. Listen, I grew up loving baseball, and I grew up in Pennsylvania. Wasn't a Yankees fan, but I always appreciated baseball history and Yankees history. I mean, if you like baseball history, and I did, Yankees history is littered. It's one and the same, right? So getting to appreciate all that at a young age and then getting to do it as a profession, gosh, it couldn't have worked out any better for me, really.
As you know, last week was the 50th anniversary of George Steinbrenner buying this team, and he not only changed the culture of the city, right? He changed the Yankees and the culture of the city, but any memories I'm sure you have covering George Steinbrenner in your time when he was on this earth?
Well, listen, George was he was really in charge for only the first part of the time that I was covering the team. It was quite an experience. You never knew what he was going to do, what he was going to say. And that was kind of part of the energy and experience of covering the team back then. It was, I think the thing that's, kind of lasted is not his personality, but the idea that the Yankees are going to matter all the time, right? And I know there's been a lot of criticism about the Yankees not winning a World Series because that is their stated goal, and that means failure. But they are relevant, they matter, and they have put teams on the field that have at least been in the conversation every year that I've been doing this. So that part is probably the lasting impact of what he's done.
I also think his voice resonates when Hal speaks. There's something about the cadence of Hal's voice that reminds me of George Steinbrenner. I don't know if you picked up on that or not, but...
Oh, sure. Listen, the apple doesn't fall far from the tree, right? There are a lot of reasons why Hal is different than George, but obviously there are a lot of reasons why he is similar to George. I mean, I think that's natural for all of us, maybe anybody who gravitated not just from the personality of your parents, but into the same job, profession, vocation, whatever as your parents. You probably have a lot of similarities, whether you want to admit it or not.
All right, Sweeny, I got to ask you this because you just mentioned Aaron Judge. You don't think he played San Francisco a little bit to get the Yankees to sign on to more, do you? Like, what do you think exactly went down before the big signing happened?
Listen, Aaron Judge was a free agent. He took advantage of the opportunities that he earned. And, of course, he's from the Bay Area, and growing up a Giants fan. Of course, it's understandable that he would take whatever opportunity he had to hear what was available to him and maximize his potential, right? Maximize his earnings. This is a business. And it should not be lost on anybody that this was his opportunity to choose where he wanted to play, choose where he wanted his family to live for the next part of his career, and maximize how much he was going to get paid for it. He's earned every one of those rights, and I've seen it play out time and time again. It just comes down to making the decision, and, I think Yankee fans are happy that he made the one that he did.
Absolutely. Now, obviously, as a pre- and post-game guy, and I'll get to the fact that you did a play-by-play this year as well, which was one of the biggest days, a doubleheader, if I'm not mistaken, against the Astros. But I want to ask you this. Aaron, as a person, what do you think of him? You're in the locker room, right? So what's your interaction with Aaron Judge?
I mean, just always very polite and cordial and really well-grounded person. I remember him saying something. It was spring training before his rookie year. He said, "I just want to be where my feet are." It wasn't, and he was trying to win a spot on the team, and nothing was guaranteed to him yet, and he knew that. And he said, "I just want to be where my feet are." Now his feet are pretty big, right, already, so that's a big spot. But it made an impact. It resonated with me that he would say that, and it was the idea of just being grounded and understanding where you are now, and working towards wherever you're going to go, but knowing that it's not always about the end goal. There's a destination involved, but there's a journey to it, and just understanding the process to it. And I thought it was very mature. And I've always had a good rapport with him. I've enjoyed conversations with him, the thought that he gives to things that he's doing. And I just, I'm happy for him that his career has turned out the way that it has, because, I obviously anybody that puts in the work, you see a lot of people put in the work. They don't always get rewarded for it. He's being rewarded for it.
All right. Well, obviously everybody's kind of, the 62 home run chase probably will be a theme this year. But now the theme is about winning the ring, right? In 2023 after this big signing?
I think the thing that he's missed, all the great Yankees, whether it's captains or whether it's, Monument Park Yankees, Hall of Famers, people that you put on a certain other category in Yankees history, almost all of them won championships, multiple championships early in their careers. DiMaggio, Gehrig, Mantle, Jeter, Berra. There are a couple of exceptions. Thurman Munson won 2 championships a little bit later into his career because the teams he came up on were not very good. And obviously Don Mattingly never made it to a World Series. His teams, unfortunately, weren't deep enough to make it, and the playoff system was different than it is today, blah, blah, blah. Aaron Judge has been in the playoffs every year of his professional career with the Yankees. His 6 full seasons, hasn't made it to a World Series. When you're a Yankee, it's a little bit of a mark on your resume. So, yeah, he's had the opportunity to put up some big numbers and make a big impact, fan favorite. He's done a lot of good things as a Yankee. The championship is what's going to send him to that next level. And certainly, as much as they are desired, they are, kind of expected. So if you're going to put on that uniform, if you're going to make that much money, you're expected to deliver. And, I don't know how many it's going to be. I think it's hard to win one, as we've seen. Winning more than one is harder still. Sometimes they made it look easy back when you were a kid, right? But it's not up to that. So I think that's obviously the goal here. His personal statistics and achievements will help lead the team in the right direction. But, he's talked about it. That's obviously the goal for him.
All right, I want to talk about Sweeny Murti now that I got you on, because I feel like I've seen your rise from you were a beat writer at one point, then you were on FAN, and now you're doing pre and post. But you got to sit in the chair of John Sterling to do a couple games. I know you to do a game, and I know you were really honored. Wasn't that your birthday to do play-by-play?
It was. Last year on my birthday, I got to do play-by-play for the very first time, and it was a New York Yankees at Houston Astros game. It was a single game dropped in as a makeup on June 30th. And, listen, my career has taken a lot of great turns. When I met you, I was the Yankees reporter on WFAN before the broadcasts were on WFAN. I continued in my role reporting and added post-game show duties. And with John missing a few games last season, I was fortunate enough to get a chance. I told you before, Alex, I've been a baseball fan my whole life, and I've been on the radio for 40 years. To get a chance I did play-by-play of high school games and things like that early in my career. To get a chance to call a New York Yankees game on WFAN was certainly, and sitting in the chair of a guy who's going to be in the Hall of Fame, like John Sterling, that's certainly, that was one of my highlights, no doubt about it.
You've interacted with Susan and John the last few years, obviously, as pre and post. I mean, they just seem like the dynamic duo on radio, and then you're doing the pre and post. I mean, what a team you guys got every night.
I am fortunate enough to share a booth with two people who will win the Ford Frick Award one day as Hall of Fame announcers, and be honored in Cooperstown. I have no doubt about that. I'm shocked that one or both of them hasn't had it happen to them already, to be honest with you. But it is pretty phenomenal to get to share a booth with people like that and say that you're part of that team. It really is a tremendous experience.
And I feel like people can learn from your journey that to always persevere, always dig in every game, right, to get where you are right now.
I think the thing that I learned the most by covering great athletes was watching how they go about their business every day, knowing that it doesn't matter if they went 0 for 4 or 4 for 4. There's another game the next day. And that's something that I have to, I think I've taken that approach, knowing that I hope I had a good job on the air today. I hope I did a good job on the air today. If I did or if I didn't, I've got to come back and do it again tomorrow. And that's something that, like, listen, I had, right before I moved to New York, the news director that I was working for in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, said, it's just radio. If you screw it up, come back and do it again tomorrow. And I've never forgotten that. And it's another way of learning a lesson that I've learned from these great athletes is that, you had a great day today, you had a bad day today. Guess what? There's another game tomorrow, and you better be ready for that. So I feel like that's something that I've had the ability and learned how to take into my job.
All right, I got to ask you about coming home to your kids because you're a proud dad as well. So how do they feel having a dad on the radio? Tell me about that a little bit.
I mean, I've done it their whole life, right? So they don't know any different. I think they've kind of learned that my job is different than some of their other friends' dads and moms, but I don't think that it makes them feel any different. I think they enjoy the perks of getting to come out to see me work once in a while and share a few minutes in the press box with me when they come to a game, before they go and sit in the stands and act like everybody else at a Yankees game. So I think the older they get, I think they're going to understand and appreciate how special this is for them. But it's a lot of fun. It gives us something to talk about every day and understand. They go to sleep a lot of times before the game's over. So when I come home and I see them the next morning, it's, telling them that Aaron Judge hit another home run. Last year was great because, we talked about how many home runs he was hitting and the significance of that and getting to share that with them. That's, it took 61 years for a player in a Yankee uniform to do that, and that I was able to share that with them and talk to them about it was really special.
Well, right, because neither of us were around in 61, but I'll tell you what, we watched the movie. I'm sure you watched the movie. So to feel that era, sort of, although he didn't have a competitor on the team, that was the difference, right? One of the big differences anyway.
That was a huge thing. I mean, listen, the idea that when Mantle and Maris went at it toe-to-toe in 61, with Maris eventually breaking Babe Ruth's 60 home runs and Mantle falling short because of injury in September. If you looked at the races in 98, McGuire and Sosa went at it together. Even the year that Bonds set the record, there were still McGuire and Sosa and Luis Gonzalez and other people hitting a number of home runs and pushing that mark. Nobody came close to Aaron Judge. He was doing this with the pressure solely on him and nowhere else, the focus solely on him and nowhere else. I think it was an important point during the season and important perspective when we look at it after.
Now, as a kid, I guess I always thought you were sort of a Yankee fan, but your reporting is fair and straight and not biased. But I have to ask you, the 9-14 stretch in August, I mean, what were you feeling as they were going through that downward spiral that month?
Well, I think it's always easier to talk about people that are winning and be around people that are winning. Everybody's a lot happier, right? So I've always tried to take the long view of what was going on, and you just try to understand that there hopefully was time for them to get healthy before the end of the season and straighten themselves out. A lot of what they were doing in August was about a lineup that had been depleted and decimated shortly after the trade deadline, which was the worst time of all to incur injury like that because you don't have the ability to make the fixes. And the players, in case of Andrew Benintendi, a player that they traded for, got hurt. So there are a lot of reasons that went into, and I hear people talk about excuses. Well, listen, there are reasons and there are excuses. I tend to look at a lot of reasons why they underperformed late in the season, and I think the hope was that they could get healthy and put a full lineup out there before the season was over. Didn't quite work out that way. They came up short. We'll see how it happens again. But it was certainly a time that, when you look at how the season began, I don't think any of us foresaw it ending in the manner that it did. I didn't think it ever guaranteed them getting to the World Series or winning a championship with what they did in the first 3 months, but they put themselves in a position to do something special. Unfortunately, they weren't able to finish it out.
I remember a couple times listening to you, Sweeny, and you were like, well, guess what? The Yankees are human. And you said this after long winning streaks were snapped. You're like, well, guess what? The Yanks are human. We learned that today, something to that effect. But I want to go inside the studio with you real quick. When you listen to these press conferences, do you take notes like any pre- and post-game host would do, or how do you navigate that?
Yeah, I look for certain bits of information that stand out to me, or certain turns of phrase that make sound like there's something significant to me. Anything that's going to help fill in the picture that I've got to talk about later on. Those are the things that I'm looking for.
Then you were going to say something about the human side of the Yankees that you mentioned a few times after win streaks were snapped.
I think what I like to do is I like to point out that one of the things that I think has stood out to me, and I've tweeted this out a few times, like when the Yankees are on a winning streak, it looks like they're never going to lose again. And when they're on a losing streak, it looks like they're never going to win again. It's just how dramatic that they are and the reasons that go into whether they're winning or losing. And I feel like my job is to provide that balance and understand that they're never as great as you think they are. They're never as bad as you think they are. And that there is an ability to, what happened yesterday doesn't mean that the same thing is going to happen today, whether that's winning or losing. So I like to, again, go back to the idea that what players taught me about having a good day or a bad day and having another game the next day, that's the kind of thing that I think I try to bring to the radio every day.
All right, before you go, I got to say two memories. One memory was we were in the press area by the press gate, and you were heading in the elevator. I'm like, hey, Sweeny, and you turned around and said, hey, Alex, I remember that. But I saw you in Philly in 2006, and you couldn't believe we made the trip down there. I remember that or not. But you're like, how did you get here? I'm like, well, we took a bus,
Yeah, I don't remember seeing you at the vet there, Citizens Bank Park. But yeah, I do recall seeing you quite often at Old Yankee Stadium and up on the press level, outside the gate, up on the press level. You always had a smile on your face. You had a jersey on, and a smile on your face, and the Yankees had. It was hard to miss you and how much energy you were bringing every day.
Well, I miss everybody in the new stadium. I feel like everything's kind of confined there, but we'll make time to see each other this year, I hope, Sweeny.
Fantastic, Alex. I look forward to it.
All right, that was Sweeny Murti on WFAN, Yankees pre- and post-game host, and maybe more play-by-play in the works. How about that, Sweeny? And with that, I'm Alex Garrett, this edition of the Alex Garrett Sports Spotlight.